Peace, everyone. I pray all is well. It is late night vibes. It has been a beautiful day. I am grateful. I'm in a state of gratitude. So, today, what I want to talk about is sort of building on what I spoke about in my last video, as well as just anything that comes to mind as I speak. So one thing that I had mentioned in my last video is about the definitions that you have about certain things, the meanings that you associate to certain words, certain concepts, as well as the way that these differ from person to person, as well as how that correlates to our relationships, the differences in our definitions to words and concepts, and the way that affects our relationships, the way that ultimately that can create a state of depression. We can want so much to connect to someone, let's say in our family, and have such deep misunderstandings to the point where we don't even realize that the entire time y'all were agreeing. But because you hold these definitions that on the surface seem to be contradictory to one another, seem to oppose one another, and because of what I might say is a lack of open-mindedness or the presence of ignorance, we tend to not see that these definitions and our limited perspective holds us from being able to truly connect to people. And these connections can be extremely vital to your life, can be even a stepping stone that would allow you to go into a direction that you genuinely want to go in. I'm going to keep that brief because you will be able to, if you do receive that in its entirety, and if you can relate to that, you can see for yourself that simple concept, that which I just shared with you, will relate to your life, has affected your life. And hopefully, if you come into an interaction where, there is some opposition, there is some resistance, there is some discord, you may be able to open your mind and shift your perspective as to find understanding with a person as opposed to assuming. We might get depressed because of a prolonged period of time where there's so much misunderstanding. We might get depressed because we genuinely want to make connections with people who you feel resonance with, you feel maybe like a soul connection that is important to you, but you're unable to make that connection because of this limitation that in part is self-imposed and in part is also imposed upon us as a people. Certain cultures operate outside of the confines of the mentality that many of us have, in which we close ourselves off and we limit ourselves to a surface level understanding. And certain beings are just in tune with themselves to the point where it's never really an issue, but perhaps they will receive energies from people around that are unable to receive them, that are unable to really understand them or see them. So there is a recognition that is had when two beings, when two souls come together and have a mutual understanding that transcends this perspective, this limited perspective of, seeing on the surface or having an attachment to your outlook, to the way that you're seeing things, and therefore unable to see the definition that another person holds. Where does this definition come from? It can come from a place in the heart. It can come from a life experience. It can come from your mind. It can come from a lot of different places where you have an understanding. You have created a definition behind a word or an energy. These definitions on certain words and concepts, ideas, can affect us in so many different ways. This is just one example. So I'm talking interpersonally, but when it comes to just you, yourself, your relationship to your life experience, that which is being created within you and reflected outwardly, they can really hold you back, or they can propel you forward in that direction. They can amplify more of that which you wish to see for yourself and for humanity, for the world. And so I challenge you to question and to become aware of the definitions that you hold within you about certain things in your life and certain aspects of your life. How do you define joy? How do you define a perceived limitation or an obstacle in your life? You can look at something that is undesirable that is presented unto you and that you don't like, and you can say, this is bad, this always happens, this is my fate, this is a negative situation. And you will hold this definition that the undesirable things in your life are not there to serve you, that they are inherently bad, and that they are out to get you, therefore putting you into the role of the victim. Or you can start to define these obstacles in your life as positive. You can start to define them as stepping stones that are necessary in order for you to go in the direction that you want to go. You can define them as opportunities to elevate. You can define them as opportunities to grow. You can even define them as absolutely necessary, the only way in which you would be able to take it to that next level. I'm not going to go too into depth about these sorts of things or about these examples, but it is just to kind of bring that to the awareness so you can start to play around with that and utilize that to your advantage. There's no limitation to the creativity that you get to experience or that you get to participate in. So get creative with your definitions, get creative with your mind. Our imagination isn't necessarily nurtured collectively within certain paradigms, within certain environments. So it can be a challenge to really get creative in that way. Creativity is not limited to a canvas. Creativity is not limited to a photograph or to a video. Creativity is permeating all of our life experience. So nurture your imagination, nurture your creativity, and change your definition or play around with the definitions that you might have surrounding this creativity, surrounding this imagination. And you will see that this will uplift your spirit. This will alleviate you from depression, because we are suppressing something that is so inherent, that is so vital to our life experience, when we are not nurturing our creativity, when we are not nurturing our imagination. So it makes sense that the majority of people on this planet are depressed, because they don't know how to utilize this power. So I pray that you get real creative with it. It doesn't matter what you're doing. That you get creative with how you seek knowledge. Get creative with how you receive wisdom. Get creative with how you perceive your inhale and your exhale. And hit those description links so that, can be pointed in all sorts of directions that will assist you in your growth exponentially and further than you could ever imagine. So, peace, everyone. Have a beautiful night.